Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
Welcome to the Not Playing Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and this week I'm joined by
Ian Bruce,
Adam Scott,
and Patrick Kay.
You can contact us on email at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. Oh dear, Peter Molyneux, what has he done?
What has he done?
Right, now I'm interested to see which side of this we'll fall, because basically there was a rather controversial rock, paper, shotgun interview in which interviewer John Walker basically opened by calling Peter Molyneux a compulsive liar. It was basically like, it was really brutal, and a lot of people have actually really rallied to Peter Molyneux's aid. I'm probably not falling that side of it to me. So basically, yeah, what happened is Godus was a game that 22 Cans were working on. It's basically got to the end of their projection for when it would come out or something, and it's not quite up to snuff. And there was also the kid who got the God of Gods for tapping away at that cube, and because he was the last one, he got to be the God of Gods, which involved having a pint with Peter Molyneux, which he couldn't be bothered to turn up for, and he also was given
That's
a guide.
pretty loose definition. That's a pretty low definition of what a god is, isn't it?
Well, he also
a pint with Peter Molyneux.
He also there's more though. There is more, isn't there?
Oh yeah, there's more.
Yeah, well, he went to. And then he was told that he could get a guided tour of 22 Cans offices. I think they just basically put him in a corner and ignored him. And am I covering it all? What else?
I
what
think
have I
we're hitting the
missed?
salient points, really.
But basically, oh yeah, that's right. And he's redirecting resources to this other game instead of finishing Godus, which they released as a mobile version. I played it a bit, but it was just annoying because it had this constant had to be connected, so I couldn't play it on the train or anywhere, and it was just a bit annoying. And ultimately, the mechanic just wasn't as cool as Populous, raising and lowering the land. It was similar, but you had to just drag land around, and it was just ever so fiddly, and I just didn't really enjoy it.
It just wasn't a very good game, is what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was saying, "Oh, we're doing something that's never been done before."
Which he said about all the fables and everything else.
Peter Molyneux said that. Never.
He may not be a compulsive liar, but he's pretty optimistic. He's pretty.
He's
liberal
overly
with
optimistic.
truth.
He's naively optimistic, which a person in his position with his experience really shouldn't be. The fact is, Peter Molyneux, he's an amazing visionary. He has these great ideas about things he wants to pull off, and he's probably quite. He's probably quite. What's the word?
Rich?
No. But he's probably quite inspirational for a lot of the people. Well, until recently, he was probably quite inspirational for a lot of people that work for him, because he probably has. I can imagine being at those production meetings, just saying, "I've got this vision, and this is how it's going to be, and this is what we're going to do." The problem is,
we're going to make a boy,
he publicises,
a young boy.
He publicises as fact things that should be kept in a. Couldn't we do? What could we do?
They should be left on the whiteboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's publicising as fact things that have gone on the whiteboard as possible ideas that no one's even given a moment's time to working out whether it's even viable, but let alone achievable in the project that he's trying to put together. And it's not. And I know everyone's running to his defence. How can you bash Peter Molyneux? Peter Molyneux, I loved Dungeon Keeper back in the day. Played a lot of that. Played a bit of Black and White. I think we all played that at some point.
Love Black and White.
Black and White's a great game. I found it a little irritating to a while. My cow never turned into my heroic bull I wanted him to turn into. Just turned into a pot-bellied shitter, and didn't much else than that. And I felt a bit sad slapping him around the face all the time. Perhaps I shouldn't have done. But
I remember that game. You made yours into like some evil bastard, didn't you, Pat? You were like sacrificing
every
everything.
Didn't you have the horse?
I had a giant polar bear with weird tattoos all over it that was green, and I had a huge, horrible, like temple thing because I was killing everyone, and I remember playing against Rob.
Yeah, we did the gesture like kung fu stuff.
Yeah. We were like, we were like totally like at the start of the game, totally opposite ends, and I'd worked out this thing in the first few weeks of playing Black and White that if you start a fire and then you drop rocks into it and then smash up the rocks, you can just pelt rocks from one side of the map to the other. So I was basically trolling Rob with these flaming rocks from like the first 5 minutes of the game.
I was trying to play it nicely.
Fun. I know, I was being a bastard.
Those kind of gaming moments, there's loads of stuff that I massively remember. I still remember from playing Dungeon Keeper. Those kind of game moments are really, really precious. And Peter Molyneux, back in the day, was very good at creating the games that those moments came from.
Absolutely, yeah,
but
absolutely.
I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden he just stopped reading from the reality playbook and started reading from the inside of his own head. And the thing is, when you've built up the respect that he had built up at that point, due to the output that he had actually produced and people had enjoyed, then people are going to take you at your word because you're Peter Molyneux. You're the guy that produced those great games that we loved. So after so many disappointments, and I didn't play any of the Fable games, I'll say that right now, but I think, Rob, on the group, you posted that Jimquisition article where he talks about Peter Molyneux, and I don't. Jimquisition I can take or leave. I find him a little bit acerbic at times, but quite often he makes a lot of valid points, and I think he probably did this because he was backing it up with arguments. And the fact is, after every Fable game, it's like, yeah, this Fable game is going to be the greatest game ever. You can create everything you want. The whole game will be amazingly built around how you play. And then the next one comes out and says, yeah, this one will be because the last one was a bit shit. And then Fable 3 comes out and says, yeah, this one will be better because the last one actually wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be. And
I thought Fable 1 had a lot left on the floor. I think Fable 2 was probably the sort of high point of that series. Certainly the most successful. 3 for me was like a phoned in follow up, to be honest.
But the main point is that Peter, bless his cotton socks, made lots of promises he couldn't deliver to, and he's done it consistently over the last 10 years. And so now he's copying a lot of flack, and now people are fed up with it. And he's quite right, he doesn't have a reputation anymore. I think the best thing Peter Molyneux can do is remain a visionary in the boardroom and let someone else handle his PR.
I think one of the reasons he's got away with it before is normal people weren't investing in him. He's fucked up this time because he's asked for money on a Kickstarter and then not delivered on what people think they've been paying for, which is a risk you take when you give your money to Kickstarter, of course.
It is, but...
And especially on a Kickstarter by Peter Molyneux. Like, you've got, like, the bit where it says risks,
just needed to say
by Peter Molyneux. Yeah. Like, don't moan when he doesn't deliver, but to be fair, there's not delivering, there's, like, not promising, like, features and stuff, and there's simply, like, oh, yeah, we're not really going to bother with that game now, let's do something else. Yeah. You know, which I think is the bit that's unacceptable about it, really.
The biggest thing I have with Peter Molyneux, when he was producing his own games with his own money, I really didn't give a toss whether he was a fan or not. I mean, to be honest, he was kind of a bit irrelevant to me anyway, because the Fable things never really inspired me, and after that Connect thing that he was involved with, I just went, Peter, what have you done?
Milo.
But it worries me that the damage he's done to the Kickstarter brand, if you like, or the idea of crowdsourcing, because he is a massive name, and I think a lot of people have felt that felt like they've been really burned for it because they thought, well, I didn't really trust Kickstarter. I know Peter's, but it's a Kickstarter thing. It's Peter Molyneux. He knows his onions. And yeah, okay, maybe you shouldn't have promised him. But to be honest, if there was a game I was interested in and Peter Molyneux had been attached to it, I might have been more interested in it if it was a game that if that Godus game that he was doing was something that was of interest to me, because I hadn't really paid much attention to him in the last 10 years. I didn't actually realise how he had consistently put down everything he'd done before in order to sell his next project so often until the whole Godus thing erupted, and I found out a bit more about the last 10 years of Peter Molyneux's career. And I think I know he's made this big thing about I'm not talking to the press anymore, and I think that's probably the best idea.
He said that to a number of press outlets.
Yeah, well, he did. Okay, but he did like a junket type thing, but where he went to everyone else rather than they came to him because he was going to queue up the Peter Molyneux. But
actually, he did 2 interviews. He did one for Rock Paper Shotgun, which is the one that everyone's crying about. And then he did another interview after saying that he wasn't talking to the press anymore. He did another interview with Laura Kate Dale, who is also on the Podquisition podcast with Jim Sterling, and she did that, and that was the one that was published for The Guardian, the one that kind of went quite in depth. So I if you listen to the Podquisition, there's kind of a lot of background on that whole story, if you want to find out more about what happened there. But yeah, any more thoughts about this whole clusterfuck?
Not really.
No?
I think he's reaping what he's sown, unfortunately. I think he just needs to take his oats, go in the background, go and make some bloody games that are actually worth playing, and then everyone will have respect for him again. Because people have a very short memory in the gaming world, and if he actually produces the goods rather than oversells what he's not going to produce, he'll get his name back.
Indeed. Anyway, I just thought while we were on the subject of crowdfunding, I'd just sort of check in and with a couple of things we've already mentioned on here before, and also talk about something new. So just quickly, Kingdom Come Deliverance, they're a year after Kickstarter now. I think they raised somewhere just below $2 million. And they just put out a video today that's available on their YouTube channel. Just search for Kingdom Come Deliverance. But yeah, they also put out a demo of some forest tech that's looking very nice. It
looks lovely.
And
absolutely bloody lovely, that.
Yeah, and also they showed the video, took you all around their new offices, and it looks from their from like their Trello or whatever you call it, Kanban boards. There's only a few months left of development. Their alpha, those who backed at whatever threshold it was, are already playing an alpha version of the game, of Act 1, because it's going to be a trilogy. So yeah, that's coming along nicely and will be out soon, which is good. I didn't back it. Did anyone back that one?
No.
I can't remember.
Although the Kingdom Come team are working with Star Citizen on
they are sharing tech.
They're sharing tech on the clothing, the layered clothing technology, sort of outfitting your character and all that kind of stuff.
Which is cool. And in return, they're getting spaceships.
I think they are. I think they're
200-player spaceships.
For the horses.
Spaceship horses.
Horse-drawn spaceship.
In return, Chris is telling them how to not make their game public ever.
And just take
he's telling them how to never make it come out. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. Update on talked about Shadowrun Hong Kong the other week. That Kickstarter concluded at 1.2 million, which means it hit its stretch goals. So they're doing everything that they said they would do. So that includes a sort of separate campaign that will take place after the main campaign, and you'll be able to import your character into it. So that's all good. They're delivering the full vision that they had. So that's all very good. You played a bit of Shadowrun, didn't you, Ad?
Yeah, loved it. It was one of the few games that actually felt like I was in a P&P RPG session. I remember having I really loved it. Really, really enjoyed it. Going to play more, definitely.
Cool. All right, and finally, as far as crowdfunding goes, Underworld Ascendant has been announced by Otherside Entertainment, which is made up by ex-Looking Glass, Naughty Dog, BioWare, and Irrational developers, and it's being helmed by two of the creators of the original Ultima Underworld. Ultima Underworld is a game that actually predates Doom, and was one of the games that had me pining for a PC in my early teens. Even though it was like a 3D RPG, and it was in like that much of the screen, like about a quarter of the screen, the 3D bit. But it had some really great improvisational gameplay they're trying to bring that back, because whereas a lot of like 3D RPGs have kind of gone in the direction of we must create this enormous fucking world to lose yourself in, they're creating a dungeon that is, you know, it's a limited environment, but what you get to do in that environment is more, perhaps there's some more meaningful interaction there. Like I think they gave an example where like you might you might cross a bridge, but in order to cross the bridge you'll have to fight some stuff, or you can break the bridge, make it fall into lava, and then snipe the guys from over the other side of the chasm with arrows, and then make a bargain with some spiders to carry you across and stuff like that. You know, it's a bit batshit, but these are the guys that are responsible like for the building blocks of like of Deus Ex and System Shock 2.
I was going to say Looking Glass, Naughty Dog, BioWare, Irrational. That's pretty enticing bona fides. Those are.
Yeah.
Rob, has this got multiplayer?
Well, this is the thing, right? They've made their Kickstarter goal. They've only got 63 hours left, and they're at nearly 700,000. There's one of the goals is co-op, but they're saying they're not doing that until they hit 1.15 million. So I don't think it's going to happen. It's like a bit late in the day. I think the best we're going to get is a Tracy Hickman novel. That's the next.
Because you know, I was saying the other day, I'd really like to make like a VR game just for like us four to play. It's essentially like the one I had in mind would basically be this with multiplayer.
The other day.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago on the podcast,
yeah.
Something like this would be amazing co-op.
Well, I think that's still going to be a thing that needs to be made, because I don't think they're going to hit that stretch goal unless they get some really impressive last-minute backing from someone with a shitload of cash. But yeah, I managed to get the early bird $20 special, so I'm backing it, you know. But yeah, they estimate in November 2016, which they have no real excuse not to hit, because the scope of the project hasn't grown as it has in some cases with games I've backed. So yeah, but yeah, I would say I loved Underworld, but I never really played it. I just badly wanted to. And at the time it came out, you know, it was revolutionary, and it led to everything else that I've loved. So it'll be cool to revisit the original concept, I suppose.
It's got quite a kind of crudish graphical style, hasn't it? From what they've shown up so far.
I think a lot of it's concept art and very early sort of prototype stuff. But I mean, I don't. It's an indie project, and it's not like they're going to have loads of excess cash to hire loads of extra people. But they know what they're doing. They've all been working in the industry for years, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see that, because it's called Underworld Ascendant, not Ultima Underworld Ascendant. Apparently the Ultima license is still with EA, so but they're allowed to use everything that was in the Underworld games. Not that it really matters now, because the game's like over 20 years old. So
cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring out Doom 7.
Do it.
If that's how it works.
I'm sure that IP is available.
There's a game at GDC called Strafe that looks like Doom.
Yeah,
that looks really good.
Did you see the marketing for it?
Yeah, the 80s trailer where his like head explodes or something, isn't it?
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Question I don't know, because I'm a complete idiot as far as all this technology is concerned, is with Oculus Rift and Valve's VIVE VR solution, are we talking about an arms race like AMD and Nvidia, or are we talking about a format war like Betamax and VHS? Because I don't know I don't want to invest in something and find out that it's lost the war and now I've got a fucking doorstop that no one's making games for.
The Valve HTC system, that's the HTC headset is one of the headsets that will work with what Valve are providing with Steam VR. It's not just the HTC headset.
Right.
Other ones will work with it. It's just that HTC are the first to announce that they have been working on it. So the Steam thing, there will be a number of headsets available for that.
Like Steam machines.
I mean, that's from
like that vibrant market of Steam machines.
Yeah, that they released a couple of years ago.
But the concept is that there are multiple
headsets
producers
that will work with
of these.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't necessarily have to worry, because I don't know whether the software that is built and will be built to work with Oculus Rift is going to be Rift exclusive, I guess is what I'm asking, or are the HMDs basically, this is your VR HMD and you plug it into your VR software, whatever that might be, and it'll work with everything? Or does it have to be fine-tuned for one HMD rather than another?
At work we've done Rift stuff and Gear VR stuff, and the stuff what makes it all work is basically the same because they're both made by Oculus, but they do have subtle differences. So you can't use the Rift one with the Gear VR, and they're both made by the same company. So I'm optimistic that at some point in the future somebody will normalise it and standardise it, and everything will work the same way as Valve did with their VR API last year. So they've been on that for a while.
Right.
But we may end up. I don't know. It's kind of all speculative. We know nothing about the Vive thing from Valve, really. We don't know if they've got other people on board. We don't know if they're part of the OSVR open source movement that's trying to standardise everything. It would be good if they were, but I think it's too early to say. And as we kind of mentioned earlier, having an arms race would be a bad thing for everyone.
Yeah, I agree.
It will end up with the console wars, and it will just be.
Well, the last thing I want to do
Rift Master Race and shit like
bet
that.
on HD DVD when Blu-ray becomes the winner.
Yeah. But at the same time, you want to put your money in and say you support this.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's, as far as I'm concerned, until I know exactly what's happening, my money's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of people feel the same, which is.
I think
I'm kind of there too, mate.
I think I think Oculus aren't going to go away, and if you've got a DK2, it'll work with the stuff that will be produced for the consumer version, so you don't necessarily have to buy the next one.
But I and most consumers are not going to get into that. We're going to wait for the consumer models to come out, and then.
Absolutely, but that's my point. They're not going away just because Valve and HTC have said, "Look, we're doing it too," just like everybody else has done over the last few weeks, months. It's not a reason to go, or I should be going for this one. Wait and see what everybody has to offer. Wait and see who's making what for what, and see if everything normalises. It would be great if everybody just wrote something that worked on all of them, and we avoided the Android iPhone situation, which produces such rational debate.
I think you'll very quickly get a feel over the next few months, like how, if at all, games are going to be segregated across either of those platforms. Yeah. And I strongly believe they won't at all, and except for possibly a couple of things. And they may not be for the reasons that that either of those parties are withholding content from the other HMD. I think. I mean, we've already had the developers who are making the gallery, for example. They've spoke about their kind of involvement with the Vive, and they're now going to be releasing their game for that as well as the Oculus, and I think that's the way it's going to be for a while. I think you're going to see if you're making a VR game, especially if you're making a specifically built for VR game, it makes sense to build it for both of those headsets and possibly some more as well.
Oh, I agree.
And I can't see any good reason why that wouldn't be the case. That I'd be incredibly surprised if Valve, brought out, say, the next Left 4 Dead and only gave VR support for it on the Vive.
No,
I don't think
exactly.
that at all. And I don't think Oculus would have that happen either. I mean, they've definitely got the closed ecosystem with the Gear VR. And I think that does make sense in the long time. I mean, and like you only have to look at the Apple App Store to see why that makes sense for that kind of ecosystem. But yeah, like I think on PC, I don't think you're gonna have too much of a problem with that. I think it'll be obvious quite quickly what titles are being developed for which headsets. I
think in answer to your question, Adam, I don't think we're there yet. I think something like VHS needs to exist, and I think that's kind of what OSVR aspires to be.
Absolutely.
And I think they're kind of, if they have any sense, either it will be OSVR or something else will come forward, and they will work together to get this happening. Because at the moment, I think what we're heading, the direction we're heading in, is a fragmented future, and that's just not going to be good for VR, I don't think.
No, I agree.
At the end of the day, you don't want to have, like, when you see all the boxes at the end of the game trailer, you don't want to see, like, a fucking 1,000 different fucking icons, do you? It's like,
no.
What do I need? What do I need?
Just VR, just support VR.
Buy once, works with all. That would be nice.
That's what I want.
For a PC gamer, at the moment, there's two, maybe three very obvious choices out of the very many headsets that actually are in existence, and it hasn't been that way for a while. For almost 2 years, there's been, it's looked like the entire focus was on Oculus, and it's really good that it's not all on one company now, because competition is great.
I agree.
It's only a good thing, and yeah, like if it does kick everyone up the bum and make them work a bit harder, that's only a good thing. So like, I totally get what you mean. But I think you're going to find out quite quickly where the sport is. But I mean, I'd be very surprised if most consumers wouldn't go for the Valve setup. I mean, I mean, as someone who's followed Oculus for years, I know how much they've kind of achieved, and that's kind of very impressive to me. But even still, that doesn't make me want to favour their product over a better product.
No, absolutely.
I don't think you really get fanboyism in the kind of enthusiast VR community as
not
such.
Not an enthusiast community, but when it goes mainstream, boy, will you get fan. Unfortunately,
of course you will. But my point is, like, I really want. I want to see people bringing out better headsets all the time and outdoing one another, and that's hopefully what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I don't have the same worry as you do. To me, it's just like, fucking brilliant, another toy to play with. But I totally understand that that's not. Put
it this way, it's not so much a worry, because the fact that before, for me, with my layman's view of the whole market, it was Oculus Rift, and then there was everything else. And I wasn't really interested in everything else, because Oculus Rift was such a big player in that sphere. Now, it's not anywhere like that, because Valve have this huge history of being massively supportive and open with the PC gaming industry, not wanting to put any barriers in place. And I understand that there's been, when Valve made this announcement, there was a certain amount of ship jumping from people that suddenly decided that Facebook was evil again, which is like a resurgence.
Suddenly, because there's an alternative, the other one is
what
the devil.
You mean Gaben praise him as bringing out a VR thing, which means we don't have to get in bed with Facebook? Well, let me dump all the things I've been shouting about for the last year.
You fucking idiots.
I think that could even be the case, even if Oculus trump them with hardware. If the next, the Oculus have been saying for a while now, the DK2, the DK1 was the best headset you could buy for under $1,000. The DK2 was the best thing you could buy for under $1,000, and the consumer Rift will be the best thing you can buy full stop. And is that still going to be the case? That's the thing I'm interested in.
Yeah.
If they bring out something which trumps what Valve are showing off and what, you know, we still haven't had the first proper kind of, you know, reactions to that, but the kind of smidgens of impressions that we've got is that it's very impressive. Yeah. So if Oculus can then trump that and do something even better, Jesus Christ, like, I think you're looking at something that's going to blow the minds of people who've been using VR since the DK1 shipped in the first week. I think it's going to be, you know, mind-melting stuff.
Yeah, let's hope so.
And it's so exciting that there's now another big player there, and that it's, you know, I mean, it would always have been nice if it would just been the underdog, and, you know, the story had just been, you know, this 19-year-old modder creates this awesome headset, kickstarts it, crowdfunds it, does it on their own. But the reality is, if you're making something that massive, you need huge amounts of money, and, you know, it was never going to stay indie all the way up to launch, was it?
No, never.
So it just makes sense that there's another titan of VR for you know, consumers to get behind, and I can't wait to try this thing.
Awesome.
This has been the Not Playing Podcast in partnership with notlistening.co.uk. You can get me on Twitter at Bobby Rocker, BOBIROKA.
I'm at EboGB, which is EBOWGB.
I'm at Patrick JKAY.
I'm on Twitter, but I never check it, so I'm not going to give you my address. If you want to send me abuse, send it to Pat or Ian.
Fair enough. Or you can reach him via us at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter at notplayingpod. You can find the show notes for this show at notlistening.co.uk. If you're listening on iTunes, please do give us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. See ya.
Farewell. Bye.
Bye.
Squeeze them.
Push it in.
Cool.
We sounded like a proper podcast then.
We did.
Yeah.
Was awesome.
I just realised that after leading in that I bet there's people listening to this, well, because there's loads of people listening to this, obviously, that the people are going, what the fuck's a Betamax? It's really shame. I should have just gone with the HD DVD and Blu-ray, and that would have been, oh, right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.